The question at the heart of Dexter is, can evil be contained? There's much else explored in the process, but it's that primary theme that ties the show together and in particular draws an unmistakable line from Dexter's beginning to his end. Speaking of how it ended, the show appeared to suffer the same fate as other great Showtime shows. Rather than finish gracefully, Dexter was endlessly extended until finally, in its last season, after having apparently exhausted all of its creative potential, it stooped to introducing arguably one of the worst retcons in television history. The very end of the ending, Deb's demise and Dexter's escape, was brilliant. A sequence that was, albeit tragic as hell, organic, theatrical, and meaningful. Dexter was adopted as a young boy by a cop named Harry. Called to the scene of a gruesome murder, Harry had found him sitting in a pool of his mother's blood, the boy having witnessed her mutilation. As Dexter grows up, Harry learns that he possesses an intractable need to kill.
Something bigger than a dog?
Yes.
Like a person?
Yeah, but no one in particular.
Harry has the idea to channel his son's urges in such a way that both benefits society and prevents Dexter from ever getting caught. In flashbacks shown throughout the show, we see Harry inculcating Dexter with a code that will help him to channel and hopefully contain the evil within him.
Tell me, what is the number one rule?
Don't get caught.
And what are all the other rules for?
So I don't get caught.
There's also something in there about not killing innocent people, and Dexter does a more or less decent job of following them, but it's not easy for him. To his credit, they are somewhat contradictory. Towards the end of the second season, he finds himself in such a position that to avoid capture would mean killing an innocent person. He appears to have sincerely decided to turn himself in.
Deb, I'm the Bay Harbor butcher.
Ultimately, he doesn't have to when his psycho ex-lover intervenes. If the show is good at anything, it's placing Dexter in these ambiguous situations that challenge the code. It makes for great drama, but it also helps to invoke sympathy in his audience. For example, the first time Dexter categorically defies the code of Harry, he strangles a pedophile who was stalking his stepdaughter. In this instance, Dexter consciously ignores the code.
But maybe there's another code. A code that says you've stepped uninvited into my world.
The next time he defies a code, it's unconscious and he is troubled by it. It starts when a photographer named Jonathan Farrow is brought in under suspicion of killing his subjects. His arrogant and callous disposition, coupled with his macabre taste in art, seem a combination that might just engender a taste for murder, and despite any direct evidence, it seems only a matter of time before he's booked for the crime. We're confident, and so is Dexter. Maybe that's why it was so easy not to notice that he kills Farrow without unequivocally establishing his guilt first. Dexter's need to kill overrode his need to adhere to Harry's code. It's not until Angel walks the real killer, Farrow's assistant, into the precinct that Dexter realizes his mistake. He's devastated.
I killed an innocent man.
But it's not the last time he kills an innocent person. Camilla Figg was a friend of Dexter's family. Early in the show, we learn that she secretly shares case files with him, files he uses to vet his kills. Later, we learn that she destroyed the files concerning Dexter's mother's murder at Harry's request to protect Dexter from the horrible truth contained therein. And finally, we see her dying from lung cancer. Her pain is immense, and during one of several visits, she begs Dexter to kill her. He ultimately agrees, offering her a lethal bite of that elusive, perfect key lime pie. Camilla was a good person and genuinely cared for Dexter, and as it often does in these cases, it seemed unjust for her to suffer so much when death was inevitable. That doesn't change the fact that she was innocent. Until the very last episode, the 5th season premiere most reveals the theme of the show. Dexter grieves for his late wife Rita, who was murdered by the Trinity Killer for reasons that undoubtedly include some kind of revenge against Dexter. To see the act as mere revenge only results from an overly zoomed-in kind of view. Zoom out, and you see that Rita didn't just die at the hands of Arthur Mitchell. She died because she got caught up in the aura of misery and death that surrounds Dexter. During the course of the episode, we see interleaved scenes from Dexter and Rita's first date. We learn that from the word go, Dexter was using Rita, having suggested the restaurant because one of his targets apparently eats there. Later that night, Dexter and Rita talk on the phone, and his farewell at the end of the conversation sounds a touch odd, like he means it in a deeper way.
Goodbye, Rita Bennett.
And maybe he did, because once Dexter was in her life, Rita was in a way already dead. Yet when Dexter appears to confess to Rita's murder,
It was me.
it's not because he's cognizant that he's helplessly toxic. He only regretted waiting to kill Arthur.
What's the real reason you're stalling on killing Trinity?
I still have things to learn from him.
At this point in the show, there's a bigger picture forming that Dexter refuses to see, and it reveals something about the nature of human actions. Although not literally found word for word in the Bible, there's a biblical notion that sin begets sin, or to use a less old-timey word, sin gives birth to sin. The basic idea is that evil deeds have a viral character. That is, they are contagious and they grow. But this claim also holds true when it comes to good deeds. In truth, both positive and negative actions can be exponential. This explains why the code is bound to fail. You can't eternally contain an explosion. These are truths that Dexter is not conscious of, yet he understands on some level, evidenced by his constant fear that Harrison will grow up to be a serial killer. At one point, Dexter was even afraid to touch Rita's pregnant belly. It's as if he's King Midas, except everything he touches turns to death. Despite these intimations, Harry's training and Dexter's own myopia conspire to make him believe that he can focus the evil within him and do good with it. When he decides to run away in the 5th season premiere, he takes his kill tools with him because he doesn't plan to quit murdering people. He just vaguely plans to do it as a bachelor. The funny part is that he could have very well left his kill tools behind. At a seemingly abandoned bait and tackle shop, he encounters a very rude stranger. Dexter brutally kills the man with an improvised kill tool. His actions may have appeared as self-defense, but Dexter actually initiated the confrontation by entering the restroom and engaging the man. This murder says a lot. Here, Dexter is trying to disappear, and yet he can't even make it out of Miami before killing someone who, despite being highly belligerent, was innocent. Then again, most of the innocent people that Dexter kills never seem all that innocent. Stan Liddy was a disgraced cop who conducted an illegal surveillance of Dexter. Eventually, Liddy kidnapped him and planned to coerce a confession. Dexter had other plans. As the show went on, Dexter finally found someone on his table that was unquestionably innocent, his own lieutenant. The complicating factor in LaGuerta's demise was that she planned to implicate Dexter's sister as well, and so it seemed that Dexter was saving Deb. But what Deb did was wrong. She had been an accessory after the fact when Dexter murdered Travis Marshall, and LaGuerta knew it. What we knew was that Deb had finally been drawn into Dexter's aura of death. The seed had been planted, and quickly grew to overwhelming proportions when Deb ended up being the one who killed LaGuerta. Deb herself was fatally wounded by Oliver Saxon, the brain surgeon, but like Rita, she was probably dead way before that. After being shot, she was diagnosed as brain dead, and so Dexter decided to pull the plug in what you might think was his second mercy kill. Yet, in an odd twist, by turning off Deb's machine, he did not exactly defy the code. After all, she was a murderer who had escaped justice, just the kind of target Harry trained Dexter to pursue. He disposes of her body in the same ritualistic way in which he disposed of most of his victims. Dexter is no longer in denial. He can see the big picture. Despite the code, despite all the vetting, despite all of the interior dialogue with the ghost of Harry, Deborah died because Dexter failed to contain the evil within him. His image as a superhero, a vigilante that cleans up the scum that falls through the cracks of the justice system, finally dissolves completely. Now that Dexter has reached such a tragic end, it reflects back on the rest of the show, and maybe for some of us, changes perhaps not what we saw, but the intensity and gravity of Dexter's struggle. Amid the humor and even oddly at times the levity, here was a person locked in a life or death struggle with himself, a battle red in tooth and claw. The good guy, the Dexter that we knew, the one that talked to us, lost. Having long ago decided that he can't change, Dexter reasons that the only way to stop an exponential power is to kill it, and so he drives his boat into a hurricane. There are easier and more surefire ways to kill yourself, so one has to wonder, is this another instance among so many where Dexter's conscious self belies the intentions of his baser self? Perhaps he's simply faking his death. Maybe the dark passenger is driving the boat. Maybe he was always in the driver's seat. Either way, we know that Dexter survives, presumably free now to kill without the encumbrance of some superfluous and anyways defective code. In any hero tale, we see a character who tries to impose his own order on the world, and in the process, make it a better place. We liked Dexter. We wanted to believe that he could follow the code. But in the end, we wanted justice. Deb was good, and so she should have been rewarded. Dexter was bad, and so he should have been punished. But the writers of the show had something more to say than that. They gave us the ending we needed, not the one we wanted.